there's this assumption that the Las Vegas Raiders, all they need is a quarterback to change the trajectory of their franchise. They are a quarterback away from being a playoff team, and I don't think that could be any further from the truth. Even if the Raiders are able to get their hands on a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward, they got way more issues than just quarterback. First of all, Antonio Pierce. I don't hate Antonio Pierce. I was rooting for Antonio Pierce to succeed, but right now, we do not know if this brother is a good head coach. As bad as this team has played because of the injuries that they've had, and they knew coming into this year, they pretty much were handicapping themselves, handcuffing themselves with their quarterback position. They did try to trade up for Jayden Daniels. They did try to move up a few spots in the draft, but this ain't Madden. You can't manually force a team to trade with you, no matter how dire you may need a quarterback. But there have been a lot of games that the Raiders have been in this year that have came down to the final possession or the last 5 minutes, and Antonio Pierce just completely mishandles the game. When you have a team that loses the way that the Raiders have against Kansas City on that Black Friday game, and they just continuously find ways to fumble, easy wins, and one possession losses, special teams mishaps, weird turnovers late, that's an indictment on the coaching. I was listening to Bill Belichick's coach podcast, and he was stressing the importance of situational football. When you can win situational football, it doesn't matter how much talent you have, because you just know ways to win games depending on certain situations if they are close late. And Antonio Pierce just plays things way too conservative. He's coaching like a guy who's just trying to get by this season, even though his job security is up in the air. Because Tom Brady, with him being the minority owner, I'm pretty sure that Mark Davis is going to lean on him a little bit when it comes to making these personnel decisions and these head coaching decisions. And I don't know if Tom Brady has seen enough out of Antonio Pierce to warrant giving him a second season to prove himself. And there's no guarantee that even if you do get Shedeur and Cam Ward, that Antonio Pierce is going to look better than what he's been this season, because the main selling point on Antonio Pierce was that when he took over for Josh McDaniels as the interim head coach, he made this team competitive. They were able to turn the season around. And although they didn't make it to the playoffs, you thought that you kind of had a little bit of lightning in the bottle with Antonio Pierce. And you already fumbled by not giving Rich Bisaccia the full-time job when he took the team to the playoffs a few years back as an interim head coach, and they lost to the Bengals in the wild card round. You didn't really want to make that same mistake with Antonio Pierce. And plus, all of the players were behind him. They rallied behind him. They wanted him to get the full-time head coaching job. And now if you were to ask Max Crosby how he feels about that, because remember, Max Crosby threatened to demand the trade if Antonio Pierce didn't get the job. I wonder if he still feels that same way now with how the season has played out, because the Detroit Lions have a shit ton of injuries, and yet they're 12-2, one of the best teams in the NFL. They got like 10 guys that have started on their defense on injury reserve. So injuries are not an excuse for poor play, when a lot of these games that the Raiders have lost have been due to Antonio Pierce just playing things too safe late in these games. And then your offensive line is not good. You only got two good offensive linemen, Cohen Miller at left tackle, and your outstanding rookie offensive lineman, Jackson Powers Johnson, who you drafted out of Oregon. That's about it. Your other offensive line positions need some desperate help. You got to address those in free agency. You got to address those in the draft. You got to get more wide receivers, and you definitely got to get a running back. I mean, I think that there's a possibility that after you take a quarterback in next year's draft, that you trade back into the first round and you draft Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, because you just need more playmakers on that offense. I like Jacoby Myers. Trey Tucker is a good deep threat, and you do have Brock Bowers, but you need more dynamic players on the outside. You need more elite perimeter players. And defensively, your front seven is going to be good when you get Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins back. But your linebackers could be better. You could do better than Divine Diablo, who was a converted safety, who went to linebacker. You got Robert Spillane, who is okay, but he's okay. You can do better. Your secondary is solid. I like Nate Hobbs. I like Jack Jones. You could probably get another boundary corner to put alongside Jack Jones, maybe get another safety. But, drafting a quarterback is still not going to make the Raiders a playoff team next year unless they're able to know that Antonio Pierce is the guy to lead this team to success. Are they going to be able to improve this offensive line? Are they going to be able to build off the selection of Jackson Powers Johnson? Is Colton Miller still going to be able to sustain this high level of play getting into the older ages and the later stages of his playing career? Do you need to go ahead and just draft your franchise left tackle of the future and a very talent-rich offensive tackle class? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself when it comes to assessing the future of the Raiders, because getting Shedeur Sanders, yeah, it sounds good, but the team around them wouldn't be that good. All he has is Brock Bowers, and who else? He has a bad offensive line. He's already been playing with crappy offensive lines in Colorado. Why not give him a good one for a change? He already had no run game at Colorado. He's going to walk into the same situation in the NFL that he had in college. And it's a lot tougher to win when you got no offensive line and no run game in the NFL than what it is to do in college. It makes the transition a lot tougher than what it has to be. There are just so many areas that the Raiders have questions at that, drafting a quarterback is a must, but they got way more areas to address than just QB. QB is important. Nobody's denying that, but you don't know if you got a good head coach. Your offensive line is bad. You need running backs and wide receivers. You just need playmakers on that offense outside of Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. There's just so many holes that the Raiders have that drafting a quarterback is not going to completely save this team per se.